AITA for taking back the ring after she said she found someone better? I am Lucas, 32 years old, from Pittsburgh. 3 years of my life went up in smoke during a Sunday dinner. But honestly, it was the best thing that ever happened to me. You will understand why. First, let me set the scene. I rebuild heavy equipment to earn a living. Caterpillar excavators, John Deere monsters, anything with hydraulic cylinders and enough power to level a city block. There is something satisfying about taking a completely wrecked machine and making it purr like new. The shop is wedged between two bridges on the Mon River. At noon, I watch the coal barges pass by while eating the same sandwich I have had for 2 years. Turkey, Swiss cheese, apple, black coffee, and a real thermos. My supervisor, Matthew, says I am the only 40-year-old guy who still brings a thermos to work. Guilty, Your Honor. Tuesdays and Thursday nights, I train at Coach Anderson's boxing club on the south side, an old-school gym that smells like leather and decades of sweat. Coach Anderson is not talkative. He corrects your posture with a tap of his cane or a grunt. But here's what really matters in this story, my project car. A 1973 Dodge Challenger that I pulled out of a field in Washington County. It was a real wreck when I bought it, but the original engine, a 340 small block, was still breathing under all that rust. The chassis was solid, and I had been slowly resurrecting it for 2.5 years. At the moment, I was hesitating between keeping the original TorqueFlite automatic transmission or switching to a Tremec 5-speed. Purists would have their say, but it is my car, not theirs. My buddy Andrew thinks I am crazy to do a complete restoration while planning a wedding. Andrew has been my best friend since our service in the National Guard. He works in private security now. To him, everything needs cameras and access control. He is also the guy who saved my skin in this story. So, remember Andrew. This guy is the real MVP. After his complicated divorce 2 years ago, Andrew convinced me to start documenting things better. Memory fails, but receipts do not lie, he always says. A smart man. Regarding the wedding expenses, Victoria and I had agreed last February to split everything 50/50ths. I have the messages to prove it. February 12th, these exact words. It is logical, we are two adults with jobs. So, I started writing everything down. The venue deposit was $2,800. I paid it, sent her the receipt, and asked for her half. She sent me $1,400 3 weeks later with a story about a late commission check. It seemed plausible at the time. She was in real estate, so her income could fluctuate. No, false. The caterer wanted $2,200 up front. Same scenario, I paid. She sent $800, promising the rest the following week. Meanwhile, and this is where I should have seen the red flag, she was posting Instagram stories in overpriced restaurants, girls' weekends, luxury bags, spa days, and concerts, but never had money for the wedding we were supposed to finance together. I said nothing. It is not my style to create drama about money with the woman I thought I would marry, but I kept the proof. Here is the thing with diesel mechanics. Problems do not lie. You diagnose, you order the right parts, you fix it correctly, and you move on to the next one. People are much more complicated. Victoria treated our wedding like her personal coronation. 3 Pinterest boards, Excel files of vendors, and an organization binder as thick as a phone book. She talked about centerpieces and invitation fonts as if they were matters of national security. Meanwhile, I was paying for everything, watching our savings account drain while she focused on the creative aspect. She often dropped hints about the idea of a more prestigious venue or a larger guest list because people would judge us if we did it cheap. When I reminded her that we had already reached the limit of our budget, she suggested I work overtime or sell the Challenger to fund what really matters. And that is where everything exploded. One Tuesday, she announced, not asked, but announced that her family wanted to see us for Sunday dinner. Her mother needed to coordinate the final details. I said I would come at 3 p.m. after finishing the installation of the new suspension bushings on the Challenger. She rolled her eyes, throwing out that I always prioritized my little hobby over family obligations. When I pointed out that you cannot rush a precision suspension job without messing everything up, she replied that I should have thought about that before wasting money on an old carcass. Of course, because being foresight is apparently a character flaw. In heavy equipment repair, you learn to spot the warning signs before total failure. If you ignore them, you end up with a complete engine rebuild. Or worse, I should have applied the same logic to my relationship. Yeah, I was about to learn a lesson the hard way. Sunday afternoon arrived, and I showed up at Victoria's parents' house right at 3 p.m. I had spent the morning pressing new bushings into the control arms of the Challenger, so my hands were scrubbed with pumice soap and my nails cleaned with a wire brush. Her sister Claire was there with her husband. Victoria's father, Mr. Davidson, was handling the barbecue outside, and her mother was managing the kitchen. The first hour, everything seemed normal. Small talk, weather, work, vacation plans. Victoria kept checking her phone constantly and smiled at messages or changed the subject as soon as we talked about the Challenger or my work. Blatant red flags, but you know how we minimize things. The turning point happened when Claire asked about our honeymoon plans. Victoria launched into a tirade about luxury resort packages and first-class flights. None of that had been approved, of course. Then she followed up with the fact that some people were not doing their part financially to make their shared dream come true. She was staring right into my eyes while saying this. Then came the methodical demolition of everything I loved. My little collector car was a waste of money that should have gone toward our future. If only I had real ambitions, instead of settling for mediocrity, we could afford the wedding she truly deserved. Claire let out a nervous laugh, but I saw the knowing look she exchanged with Victoria's mother. It was a planned ambush, and I was the guest of honor. Victoria continued on her role. My job was acceptable for someone without ambition. The house I rent was shameful to show off. My routine was suffocating, and my friends were losers. Apparently, she was settling for me all this time, hoping I would mature and want more out of life. Then came the revelation, the famous Eric. Not just a friend according to her, but someone who has ambition and knows what he wants in life. Someone with a real career who takes her to places that matter and treats her the way she deserves. They had been close for months, and he had shown her what real chemistry is. She said all this while her family nodded as if they already knew. These people were complicit. Mr. Davidson had stopped flipping the meat on the grill. Claire was frozen in the kitchen doorway, pretending to scroll on her phone. The room had that strange energy you feel just before an explosion breaks out. Then Victoria looked me straight in the eyes and twisted her engagement ring to pull it off her finger. You know what? I am completely done with this charade. She threw it at me. She did not hand it back. She threw it like she wanted to hurt me with it. The ring bounced off my chest before ricocheting onto the wooden floor, making that sharp metallic sound. A truly elegant exit. Anyway, it is a cheap ring like everything else in this relationship. She turned to her family. Did you know he bought that at a discount jewelry store? Eric would never be so stingy for something so important. The room went silent except for Victoria's monologue. 3 years of my life wasted with a guy who thinks fixing trucks is a career and spending weekends in a garage is a lifestyle. I deserve so much better than this. She looked at me with pure contempt. I will forget you in a week. Frankly, I am already halfway there. Here is the thing, Andrew. At that moment, I felt a strange peace wash over me. No anger, no pain, just total clarity. I had the crystal clear understanding that I was seeing someone reveal themselves exactly as they were. I stood up, walked to where the ring had landed, and picked it up. It was a white gold band with a quarter-carat diamond that I had saved 4 months for. Bought at a respectable jeweler, not a low-end store. Cheap by some standards, but it represented 4 months of rigorous money management and overtime. I slipped it into my pocket. I walked over to Mr. Davidson, who was standing near the sliding door, and removed Victoria's spare key from my keyring. Thanks for dinner, Mr. Davidson. That is all. I did not defend myself. I did not correct her lies about the ring. I did not remind her that she was spending my money while being unfaithful. What is the point? You do not argue with someone who has already decided to humiliate you in front of their people. I walked through the dining room where everyone was suddenly captivated by their plates. Arriving at the front door, I took out my phone. A single word sent to Andrew. Execute. By the time I reached the end of the driveway, his Silverado was already pulling up to the curb. Perfect timing, because we had planned for this contingency. Andrew asked no questions. He did not go check inside. He just rolled down his window and signaled me to get in. Well, he said once we were on the main road. Either that was the shortest Sunday dinner in history, or the most efficient breakup I have ever seen. My phone was already vibrating, probably messages from Victoria, but I did not look. It is useless to read emotional debris in the heat of the moment. The drive to my place took 12 minutes. Enough time to start a mental list, change locks, manage bank accounts, update emergency contacts at work, cancel wedding vendors as much as possible without too many penalties. Practical priorities first. The emotional stuff could wait. But what really pissed me off is this. She had orchestrated this whole humiliating scene while she still owed me money. She was using our joint account to fund her affair. Then she dared to call me stingy in front of her family. The level of manipulation was almost impressive if you like that sort of thing. Monday morning, 6 a.m. sharp. First mission, the locks. Not just changing the code. No, I replaced the entire deadbolt system with a grade 1 Schlage model recommended by Andrew, the security pro. 45 minutes and $68 at Home Depot. The old hardware I put in my toolbox as a backup. Victoria had sent me 18 messages Sunday night and called 11 times before 7 a.m. Monday morning. I read everything, screenshotted everything, then blocked her number. The messages started with fake apologies. I did not mean it like that, then veered into pure rage. You cannot ignore me like this, with several threats to come get her things. Incredible how I will forget you in a week had transformed into harassment in one night. No, at work, it was a normal day. I spent Monday rebuilding the injection pump of a 2019 Caterpillar 329 and used my lunch break to update my HR file. I removed Victoria from my emergency contacts, my insurance, and my retirement plan. I put Andrew as primary contact and my brother as secondary. Monday evening, I started what I call the audit. Joint checking account, $3,847.32. Joint savings, $12,203.18. Shared subscriptions, Netflix, Spotify, gym. I downloaded statements from the last 12 months, took screenshots of everything, and noted what I could change alone and what required 2 signatures. The wedding vendor file was more complex. I organized everything into manila folders, contracts, payment schedules, cancellation policies, refund calculations. Reading the fine print, I realized most vendors were actually reasonable. Caterer cancellation 2 weeks in advance equals a 60% refund. Venue 30-day notice. Deposit refunded minus a $350 processing fee. DJ 10-day policy. Full refund for cancellation more than 2 weeks before the date. Then I stumbled back onto the messages from February where Victoria had agreed to share expenses. Those exact words. It is logical. We are 2 adults with jobs. Screenshot saved with the timestamp clearly visible. I opened a notebook to keep an incident log. Date, time, description of any contact attempt. Facts, nothing but facts. Example, October 23rd, 6:22 p.m., call from a blocked number not answered. Tuesday at boxing, Coach Anderson worked me on combinations on the heavy bag. My timing was off. He tapped my shoulder with his cane. You are pulling your fist back too fast. Follow through, then keep your guard up. Wednesday, Andrew stopped by after work with plastic bins and his label maker. We went through my house room by room to identify what belonged to Victoria. Some clothes in the closet, toiletries, about 15 books, a mug she said was lucky, and that ugly cushion she had bought for the sofa. 3 years of living together, and her entire footprint fit into 2 boxes. Makes you think about what she really valued, doesn't it? Every item was photographed and noted in a clear list. When she came to get her stuff, there would be no debate on what was hers or ours. Andrew also helped create a shared Google spreadsheet listing all wedding expenses and vendor contacts. Clean layout, cancellation deadlines highlighted in red, refund percentages calculated automatically. This guy is a spreadsheet genius. The Challenger became my evening therapy. I started completely dismantling the interior. Bench seat, door panels, dashboard, carpet, headliner, everything carefully labeled with tape and stored in the guest room. The wiring harness had to be replaced anyway, and I had put off inspecting the brake lines. I ordered parts online, an Edelbrock intake manifold for the 340, an MSD ignition system, new seat covers for the future upholstery. Just steady progress on something that belonged entirely to me. By Friday, I had taken back full control. Victoria's access removed everywhere possible. Shared documents organized with critical deadlines flagged. Her things inventoried and ready to be picked up. New locks installed, incident log up to date, accounts secured. The wedding was supposed to take place in 6 weeks. Most vendors had favorable cancellation policies if I acted fast and followed procedures to the letter. 3 years of relationship were ending, but the financial damage remained manageable provided I stayed organized and did not let emotions lead, which I did. Tuesday morning, 6:30 a.m., it was time to call the vendors before going to work. The venue coordinator picked up on the second ring. I cited clause 4.2 of the contract regarding cancellations under 30 days, gave our reservation reference, and asked for written confirmation. She put me on hold for 3 minutes, then came back with a cancellation number. She confirmed that the deposit refund, minus processing fees, would take 7 to 10 business days. Next step, the caterer. 2-week deadline, 60% refund policy clearly stipulated in the contract. I had paid the $2,200 deposit 7 weeks earlier, so I was entitled to a $1,320 refund. The owner asked for a written cancellation, so I immediately sent an email with the contract references and details of our phone call. The DJ offered a full refund if cancellation occurred more than 7 days before the event. Simple call. Every conversation was documented. Date, time, person spoken to, confirmation number, expected amount. When I left for work, I had canceled 6 vendors and planned to call 2 others during my lunch break. All refunds were returning to my account since I was the one who had made the payments. Goes to show, being the stingy one who keeps the bills has its advantages. The ring business was settled Thursday. I took it to Morrison's refinery in Shadyside. The appraiser examined it for about 8 minutes, checked the diamond quality against reference tables, then offered me a price equivalent to about 65% of the retail price. A fair offer for a quick sale without complications. I left with a check for $1,680. Enough to order the suspension rebuild kit I was looking at for the Challenger plus the right wiring tools and interior hardware. Sometimes trash takes itself out and even pays for the privilege. The process for small claims court took longer than the cancellations. The Pennsylvania system offers simple online forms, but I wanted everything properly filed the first time. The complaint was clear. Victoria owed me her agreed share of non-refundable wedding expenses. I printed the message thread from February where she wrote, "It is logical, we are 2 adults with jobs." I highlighted that sentence in yellow. Added copies of all receipts. Venue deposit, $350 processing fee. Photographer, $420 non-refundable. Several small, unrecoverable charges. Total claim amount, $1,247. Andrew came over Thursday night to verify my calculations and organize the evidence file. He printed dividers, filed documents chronologically with summary tabs. A real legal ninja. Filing fee $78, paid Friday morning at the downtown courthouse. I got my case number and scheduled official notification for the following week. The clerk explained that Victoria would have 30 days to respond after being officially notified. By Sunday, I had total control of the situation. Vendor refunds were following the announced timelines. Court documents were filed with all required proof. Victoria's things were packed and ready to be picked up. I sent a message to her sister Claire. Victoria's things are ready. What day works for you? Simple, logistical, no emotion, no drama. The answer arrived 3 hours later. Appointment set for Tuesday at 6 p.m. No direct communication with Victoria. Perfect for everyone. I closed my organized binder and went through my checklist one last time. Pending refunds for $1,350. Small claims file, $1,247. Personal property ready for transfer. Emergency contacts updated, locks changed. Accounts secured. For weeks of methodical work to unravel 3 years of life together. Not bad for someone who apparently does not understand what it is to truly live. I put my phone in the kitchen drawer and went back to the garage. The Challenger's brake system was not going to rebuild itself, and I had new parts to install. Besides, working with my hands is better than ruminating on romantic drama. The harassment started with texts from unknown numbers Thursday, 2 days after Victoria picked up her stuff. Same manipulation, new area codes, Pittsburgh, Philadelphia, even a few Ohio numbers. I took screenshots of every message before blocking the numbers. I needed to establish a pattern. Example from Thursday night. Everyone knows you are acting like a kid for nothing. My family thinks you are pathetic. Friday, Eric treats me like a queen. You never knew how to appreciate what you had. Saturday, I told everyone at my work about your little tantrum. Everyone thinks you are behaving like a child. Sunday, you can ignore me all you want. You will never find better than me. Each screenshot was saved in a folder with time and date. The pattern was obvious. Manipulation 101, straight out of the manual. Then bits of conversation started coming back to me. According to mutual friends, Victoria was telling everyone that I had abandoned her at a family dinner, that I had stolen the engagement ring, and refused to pay my share of wedding expenses. She was painting herself as a victim while conveniently forgetting the betrayal, public humiliation, and her debt to me. Very interesting. The incident at work happened the following Wednesday. I was leaving the site around 5:45 p.m. when our security guard intercepted me near the gate. Victoria was parked in the visitor lot and had tried to enter the company zone when she saw me arriving with my truck. When he asked her to leave, she claimed to be my fiancée, saying there was a family emergency. She told him I refused to give her back her things and that she had to get them from my work truck. A total fabrication. She had already retrieved everything. The 2 boxes, no more, no less. I added that to my log and called the police non-emergency number that same evening. I explained the pattern of these contact attempts, gave the reference of the incident at work, and asked for a file to be opened for documentation purposes. The officer was professional, methodical. He did not take me for a paranoid person. Here is what matters to us, he said. Your documentation is exactly what we want to see. Date, time, precise description. Keep doing that. He advised me to note every incident, even minor ones. If she came back to work or my house, I was to call while it was happening so they could witness it on-site and always mention the file number to track the degree of escalation. Then the real bomb dropped, the tea on Eric about 2 weeks later via a mutual friend. And there, wow, the details made Victoria's behavior even more calculated than I imagined. Eric was not a simple friend who had suddenly made her rediscover passion. They had been seeing each other for at least 8 months, even before we signed the final contract for the wedding venue, the one I was now paying cancellation fees for. Victoria was already posting photos with him on her private social media while playing the model fiancé in public. Eric's wife discovered explicit messages dating back to March where Victoria complained about having to pretend to be happy with someone so boring while planning a wedding she no longer really wanted. There were even screenshots where she asked Eric to help her get out of this trap without looking like the bad guy. So the affair was not a spontaneous passion but a calculated exit strategy with a backup plan. Absolutely diabolical. Eric's wife called Victoria's real estate office after finding vacation photos taken a weekend where Victoria told me she was visiting her sick grandmother in Cleveland. In reality, Victoria had paid for the hotel with our joint credit card and lied to me when I asked what that charge was for. Eric moved out temporarily after his wife confronted him, but apparently, he told Victoria that their relationship was not serious enough to justify destroying his marriage. She had lost both her lover and her fiancé in the same week, which explained the increasingly intense harassment. In the end, her king looked more like a court jester who runs away as soon as things get real. I continued my routine despite everything. Boxing with Coach Anderson twice a week, who continued to correct my tendency to drop my guard between combinations. The Challenger restoration was progressing well. I had finished properly installing the brake lines and started rebuilding the wiring harness with labeled circuits and the correct gauge wire. The motion-sensing floodlight Andrew had installed worked perfectly. It triggered every time someone approached the driveway, which proved useful for documenting surveillance attempts. 4 car drive-bys that month, all recorded with date, time, and duration. By mid-November, the pattern was clear enough for the police to advise me to continue documentation and consider a protection order if the behavior went beyond surveillance or contact attempts. I was not there yet, but my incident log was getting thicker. This whole story felt like watching the implosion of someone else's life in slow motion while mine stayed on the rails. Vendor refunds had been made as promised. The small claims court hearing was scheduled for early December. The Challenger was finally taking shape. 2 months earlier, I was planning a wedding. Now, I was documenting harassment and rebuilding a collector car. I added a note to my journal that Friday night after the motion light turned on 3 times between 9:30 p.m. and 10:15 p.m. Same silver Honda, same lurking pace, same scouting. I closed the notebook and put it in the kitchen drawer. And maybe it was time to start saying yes when people invited me out from work and the boxing gym. Like when Hannah from the scrapyard mentioned she needed help moving transmission components for her Camaro project that weekend. Saturday morning at the yard on Route 19. Opening at 7 sharp, Hannah was already there talking to the owners about gear ratios for a 1969 Camaro Z28. She had her specs in a small notebook and knew exactly which transmission combination would work with her car's rear axle ratio. The T56 box we had to pick up weighed a ton, maybe 150 pounds with the bell housing. We loaded it neatly with blankets and tie-down straps. Pro work. No damaged threads, no scratches. Hannah noticed my organization binder on the passenger seat when I grabbed my work gloves. She did not ask prying questions, which I appreciated. On the drive back, she told me she had been working on the Camaro for about 14 months. Engine rebuilt by a pro, suspension tuned, but the auto box was tired, and she wanted to switch to manual. "You want to see what I am working on?" I asked, pulling into my neighborhood. Her pickup followed mine into the driveway, and we went to the garage. The Challenger finally looked like a real restoration in progress. Hannah examined the layout of the brake lines I was working on. "You ran them along the frame rails?" "Yeah, away from the exhaust heat and road debris." She nodded, following a bend around a suspension mounting point with her finger. "Good idea. Did you account for suspension travel in the front?" "Yes, 2 inches of travel in each direction. Wolf fully turned, plus the margin for the bump stops." We talked tech for about 15 minutes. Just 2 enthusiasts who understand that details matter and shortcuts are paid for later. She knew how to handle tools and did not ask me to fix her problems for her. My phone vibrated. Message from Andrew around noon. Group plan for next weekend, karting in the South Hills. He had found a place with real racing karts, not toys for tourists, and wanted to organize a session Saturday night. Andrew created a karting outing next weekend. I told Hannah while she was putting away her tools. "You want to come?" "What kind of karts?" Knowing Andrew, probably too fast and not safe enough. She laughed. "Sounds dangerous." "What time?" "Saturday, 6 p.m. I added her to the group chat with Andrew to organize the details. Tuesday evening, leaving work, I spotted the familiar silver Honda 3 Streets from the depot exit. Same calculated pace, same obvious surveillance behavior. I had time to read the full plate this time. KDJ 4397, Pennsylvania registration. I noted it in my log when I got home. Friday night, Hannah confirmed by message that she was in for karting. Andrew had apparently proved it was a real race and not a carnival thing. "I am warning you. I am ultra-competitive as soon as there are wheels and an engine," she added. 2 weeks before the court hearing, karting the next evening. Interior reassembly to finish this weekend on the Challenger. The harassment documentation was complete. I could finally stop thinking about it actively. Sometimes the best solution to external problems is to focus on concrete projects and spend time with people who respect real manual labor instead of thinking that fixing engines is playing mechanic. The karting complex was hidden behind a shopping center in MT Oliver. Professional setup, about 20 racing karts, and a quarter-mile track with real safety barriers. We signed the waivers, put on the helmets and harnesses. The karts were real competition equipment, Rotax engines, adjustable seats, ultra-responsive steering. None of us had raced before, but Hannah quickly found the ideal line while Andrew loudly commented on every other driver on the track. We had been driving for about 15 minutes of a 20-minute session when I heard shouting in the pit area. Victoria's voice pierced over the noise of engines and tires. I headed to the pit lane and stopped my cart. Andrew and Hannah followed me, taking off their helmets. Victoria was arguing with the staff, pointing in our direction. She had followed us there. "We are leaving," I said, getting out of the cart and walking toward the equipment return area. Victoria forced her way through, walking straight toward me, face red, talking a mile a minute that we needed to resolve the situation and that I was embarrassing her by parading around with others. I simply kept walking toward the exit. "Sir, do not intervene, please," shouted the track manager. "We are handling the situation." Victoria grabbed my helmet, which I was holding by the chin strap. I stepped back, but she reached out again and scratched the visor. The helmet spun in my hand and crashed to the ground, cracking on the concrete. A supervisor arrived immediately, examined the helmet, and asked Victoria for her ID and contact info. She refused to show a card, but gave a phone number. He wrote everything down on an incident report citing the rental contract clause stipulating liability for equipment damage. "Ma'am, you will be billed for the replacement of the helmet, and you must leave the premises immediately." Andrew, arms crossed near the cart return, threw out, "Congratulations, Victoria. You just earned a lifetime ban from karting." Pause. That is surely a first, even for you. Security arrived and handed her a formal ban notice. The manager gave me a copy of the incident report and confirmed that surveillance cameras had recorded everything. He specified that if the bill was not paid, he would launch standard collection proceedings. "Let's be clear," I said to Victoria as she was being escorted by security. "It is finished permanently. Come near me again, and you will see what happens." 20 minutes later, we were back on the track in other carts to finish the session. Hannah won the last race while Andrew continued to comment on racing strategy and optimal braking points. Driving home, I added the incident report to my file. The small claims court hearing was scheduled for the following Tuesday. My documentation now covered 4 months of increasingly unstable behavior. A damaged racing helmet fit perfectly into the already established timeline of property damage and public confrontations. It was time to let the justice system handle what common sense and basic decency had failed to resolve. Small claims court hearing. Tuesday morning, 9:30 a.m. I arrived 20 minutes early, my complete file under my arm. Victoria arrived at 9:25 without a lawyer, holding a manila folder that had clearly been assembled the night before. The magistrate called our case at 9:35 and asked me to present my claim first. I laid out the wedding expenses in chronological order, cited our written agreement, and explained which costs were non-refundable after cancellation, $1,247 plus the $78 filing fee. Victoria argued that I had canceled the wedding unilaterally and that she should therefore not be liable for expenses I had chosen to incur. The magistrate asked her if she had written proof demonstrating that she had not agreed to share costs equally. She did not have any. He asked her if she contested the amounts or cancellation dates. She did not contest them either. Judgment in favor of the plaintiff, $1,325 total. The judge stamped the order and handed me the official copy. 15 minutes of testimony, 5 minutes of deliberation, 3 years of relationship reduced to contract law and well-organized documents. Victoria paid the judgment within the 15-day deadline imposed by the court. The karting center bill was also settled. The surveillance completely stopped after the judgment. Problems solved by legal means and meticulous documentation. The rebuilt 340 engine coming from Butler County had been installed the week before court. The Challenger started for the first time on a Saturday morning in mid-December, and just when I thought I was out of this whole circus, the grand finale arrived, and let me tell you, it was tasty. 3 weeks after the hearing, I was in the garage around 9 p.m. working on the interior of the Challenger when the motion light turned on. Hannah was there, helping me install the new seat covers. We looked up hearing a car door slam in the driveway. Victoria appeared at the corner of the garage, stumbling, visibly intoxicated. She was wearing pajama pants and a hoodie, hair messy like she was sleeping in her car. The smell of substances, alcohol, or worse, hit us from 10 feet away. "There you are," she slurred, pointing at me with what looked like a half-empty can. "You live your miserable little life in this pathetic garage." Hannah shot me a surprised look. "Oh, please, is who?" I whispered. Unfortunately, Victoria spotted Hannah, and her face twisted with rage. "What is this circus? You already replaced your ex with some random witch." Hannah burst out laughing and continued her work. "Honey, I have rebuilt more engines than you have eaten hot dinners. But go ahead, keep thinking I am the problem. You think you are smart with your little court games and your damn car." Victoria took a sip and swayed. "I came to tell you how pathetic you are." "Mission accomplished," I replied, taking out my phone to dial 911. "You are drunk on my property and violating last month's ban notice. You cannot call the cops on me. We were together 3 years." "Sure." The 911 operator picked up on the second ring. I gave my address, explained that an intoxicated person had broken in, harassed me for months, and cited my existing case number. Hearing the word case, Victoria completely lost it. A case number? You actually have a file on me? You are crazy. Hannah, without looking up from her seat, said, the kind of crazy who documents everything correctly. You should try it. Nobody asked you anything. Victoria screamed. Hannah stood up slowly, wrench still in hand. Excuse me. What did you say there? Hannah's tone was enough to make Victoria take a step back, which was funny enough seeing that Hannah is 5 feet 4 inches and Victoria is at least 5 feet 7 inches. I just wanted to say. No, finish your sentence. I would love to hear what a woman thinks who cheats on her fiancé, then harasses him afterwards. The police car arrived right at that moment. Lights flashing, but no siren. 2 officers got out and approached the garage. Good evening. We received a call for a trespassing problem. I handed over my incident notebook and summarized the facts. One of the officers flipped through a few pages and nodded. Ma'am, have you been drinking tonight? Victoria tried to hide her can behind her back. I just came for emotional closure. The second officer raised an eyebrow. By coming uninvited at 9 p.m. with alcohol to insult people. He is the one who ruined my life. Everything is his fault. Hannah could not help herself. No, your life is ruined because you cheated on a man who was paying for your wedding. It is not his fault. It is just consequences. You know nothing about me. I know you are drunk at someone else's house on a Tuesday at 9 p.m. screaming at people who are ignoring you. The first officer was trying not to laugh. Ma'am, I'm going to have to give you a sobriety test. Victoria failed miserably, unable to walk straight, touch her nose, or recite the alphabet beyond D. The breathalyzer showed a level well above the legal limit. You are under arrest for trespassing and public intoxication. While they were handcuffing her, Victoria started crying and screaming. All this is his fault. He abandoned me. He never appreciated me. One of the officers looked at me while his colleague put her in the car. Domestic matters are never pleasant. But your file made our job easier. She will spend the night at the county station and will be released tomorrow with a court summons. After they left, Hannah and I stayed a moment in the garage, listening to the Challenger engine idling. She picked up her wrench and finished securing the seat. Well, she said without looking up, that was entertaining. Yeah, totally. I smiled. Bats hit crazy. Hannah tightened the last bolt, patted the seat, and stood up. There. You want to test it? We drove for about 20 minutes in the neighborhood. Windows down, the 340 rumbling through the exhaust. The car ran perfectly. Goes to show, the best revenge is living well and having someone by your side who appreciates real work well done. Victoria said she would forget me in a week, but she is the one who visibly still cannot turn the page. Comment. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do is walk away from a situation that no longer serves you. It's easy to get caught up in anger, but true power comes from keeping your dignity and staying focused on your own path. When life throws chaos your way, the best response is often silence and a commitment to rebuilding your peace. You deserve to be surrounded by people who appreciate your hard work and share your values. Protecting yourself with healthy boundaries isn't just about safety, but about deep self-respect. Healing happens when you pour your energy back into the things you love, whether that's a personal project or simply becoming a better version of yourself. Don't let someone else's confusion or bitterness dictate your emotional state. Trust that when you close the door on toxicity, you open a window for genuine connections to enter your life. Your recipe for happiness is living well and staying true to who you are. Keep building your life, brick by brick, because that foundation is something no one can take away from you. If you like the stories, don't forget to leave a comment and support the channel by subscribing. See you in the upcoming stories.